Did you know it took Tom Holland 2 years to prepare for his Broadway debut? And he's not the only celebrity to make it on Broadway. Some of them may even surprise you. Number 1. Ariana Grande. She didn't spend 2 years preparing like Tom Holland did, but Ariana Grande's debut on Broadway won her a National Youth Theater Association Award. At just 15 years old, Ariana had already been acting in musical theater since she was 8 years old. She gave an award-winning performance as Charlotte Jason in 13, the musical. Though she hasn't returned to Broadway since then, she's been in a number of adapted-for-film musicals that were hits on Broadway. In 2016, she played Penny Pingleton in the Hairspray live televised production. And soon, she will be playing Glinda in the film adaptation of the hit Broadway musical Wicked, which you could say is Broadway adjacent. Number 2. Tom Holland. Tom Holland is a triple threat. He can sing, dance, and act. But it wasn't always that way. He had no experience in ballet, singing, or even acting when he was scouted for the West End production of Billy Elliot at 10 years old. It was a dream come true for Tom, who had spent the next 2 years learning ballet, tap dancing, singing, and going through the lengthy audition process before making it on stage. He was initially cast as Michael, Billy's best friend, but did so well that he was promoted to the lead, Billy. From there, Tom was scouted for future movie roles, which led him to becoming Spider-Man. Number 3. Emma Stone. You may know her as on-screen actor, but Emma Stone showed off her theatrical abilities during her 2014 Broadway debut as Sally in the revival of Cabaret. Emma had been cast for the role the year prior, but because of her busy schedule, she had to drop out. She said the decision to walk away was difficult, but because how busy her filming and press schedule was, she couldn't take on the role. A year later, after spending time mastering the quickstep and other dance numbers, Emma returned to the role and stayed on as Sally from November to February. Number 4. Lea Michele. Lea Michele was basically born for Broadway. Even her Glee character Rachel was the queen of Broadway at Lima High. Lea started young. She landed her first role at just 8 years as a young cassette in the Broadway classic Les Miserables. Clearly, the Broadway bug had gotten to her, because she was back again at 11 playing the little girl in Ragtime. She continued her Broadway career until she was 20 years old, and took a break to pursue other forms of acting. Even though she left Broadway and went on to Glee, Broadway never left her. She returned in 2022 for her dream role as Fanny Bryce in Funny Girl. Number 5. Nick Jonas. More than just 1/3 of the Jonas Brothers, Nick has been on stage since his 2001 Broadway debut as Little Jake in Annie, Get Your Gun. From there, his career as a young performer took off. For the next 2 years, Nick would be a regular on Broadway, playing Chip in The Beauty and the Beast and a young Gavroche in Les Miserables. Les Mis is basically a Broadway rite of passage for young performers. After some time away to focus on the music, Nick returned to Broadway in 2012 for 6 months as the lead in How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. Number 6. Gaten Matarazzo. At just 9 years old, Gaten first appeared on Broadway as Benjamin in Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. At 11, he performed for one night in Godspell. You'd think that would be enough. But a year later, Gaten was back to play a young Gavroche in Les Miserables. He took a few years off from Broadway to focus on his other acting projects, like Stranger Things, but he just couldn't stay away. In 2022, Gaten reignited his love for the big stage when he returned for the first time since his newfound Stranger Things fame. He played the role of Jared Kleinman, Evan's best friend, in the musical adaptation of the movie Dear Evan Hansen. Number 7. Emilia Clarke. She's not just the Queen of Dragons. Emilia Clarke also has a few stage credits under her sleeve. In 2013, she played Holly Golightly in Breakfast at Tiffany's Broadway musical, but apparently that performance didn't go so well for Emilia. She once described it as a catastrophic failure. Yikes. She credited the subpar performance to her lack of experience and being too young and not ready for such a big stage. But that didn't stop her completely from returning to the stage. Just not on the literal Broadway stage. In 2022 as Nina in The Seagulls on the West End, which is the British equivalent of Broadway. But this time she had a little more experience. Number 8. Sarah Hyland. Before you got to know her as the iconic Haley Dunphy on Modern Family, Sarah Hyland was already a regular on screen and on Broadway. She made her debut in 2006 playing the role of young Jackie Bouvier in the Grey Gardens musical based on the infamous documentary of the same name. She stayed on Broadway for that role until 2007. Ever since then, Sarah has shown off her acting skills and musical abilities, starring in a number of other musicals. In 2014, she starred in the musical remake of Hair at the Hollywood Bowl, alongside Kristen Bell and Glee stars Amber Riley and Jenna Ushkowitz. But since she moved to California, she's yet to return to Broadway. Number 9. Kristen Bell. Before her claim to fame as Veronica Mars, Kristen Bell dreamt of a career on stage. So, in 2001, before she could graduate from NYU's Tisch School of Arts, Kristen followed in the footsteps of her fellow Tisch alum, Idina Menzel, and went out for auditions. Soon after, she landed her first starring gig on Broadway. She played Becky Thatcher in The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. Having dreamt of being a stage actor, she didn't stop there. The following year, she was in the revival of the theater classic, The Crucible. But a few years later, she moved to LA to pursue on-screen acting, and the rest is history. Number 10. Keke Palmer. Keke is no stranger to making history. She was the youngest ever talk show host. But the same year she made that history, Keke debuted on Broadway. And that was a major for her, for more than one reason. Not only was she making her own dream come true by starring on Broadway and playing Cinderella in the musical adaptation of the classic fairy tale, but she was also the first Black Cinderella on Broadway, replacing Carly Rae Jepsen, who had played the princess earlier in the season. Even Keke couldn't believe it was really happening at just 20 years old. But as an actor and the daughter of actors, being on stage is part of her DNA. Number 11. Leighton Meester. Sometimes stars don't connect how their characters are portrayed, but that doesn't mean they won't still play the part, especially when it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to be on Broadway. At least that was the case for Leighton Meester. She debuted on Broadway in 2014, playing the role of Curly's wife in Of Mice and Men. But Leighton wasn't too pleased with how disliked her character was by the other characters, and especially by the audience. In an essay for Huffington Post, the former Gossip Girl actress wrote that she struggled with her character for that reason. Maybe that's why she hasn't made a return to the Great White Way ever since. Number 12. Viola Davis. Viola Davis has had a long, successful career pretty much since she graduated from Juilliard in 1944. In 1996, she made her debut on Broadway as a newly out or prison musician trying to make it by in the August Wilson play Seven Guitar. Her performance was so powerful, she received her first, but not last, Tony nomination. Since then, she has been dipping on and off Broadway for various projects, most of which have been written by August Wilson. In 2001, she won a Tony for her role in King Hedley II. Her most famous return was alongside her Fences co-star Denzel Washington in 2010 for the play version of the movie she won a Tony for, her portrayal of Rose. These stars are so talented. And with so many accomplishments, it's easy to forget how many of them are musical theater stars too. Whose Broadway role surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments. And for more updates on your favorite celebs, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to The Thing Celebrity.